It's been 1 year since the death of Patrick Lyoya at the hands of a Grand Rapids police officer.
And 1 year later, we are answering these questions. How did we get here? What has changed inside our city and our communities? And how can we continue to heal? Where do we go next?
13 on Your Side presents The Killing of Patrick Lyoya 1 year later.
I made the decision to charge Christopher Schurr with 1 count of second-degree murder.
We feel very confident a jury will find him not guilty.
We have to stand up united for justice because Patrick Lyoya, life matters.
We have said it before and we're going to continue to say it. Enough is enough!
Enough is enough! The people united will never be divided! The people united will never be divided! The people united will never be divided!
Today marks 1 year since a morning traffic stop on the southeast side of Grand Rapids turned deadly. That day, 26-year-old Patrick Lyoya was shot and killed by Grand Rapids police officer Christopher Schurr.
Since then, a lot has changed within the community and the way the city looks at policing. We sat down with city leaders, those who spent months making their voices heard, and GRPD Chief Winstrom to look at what has been done. But before we move forward, let us show you how we got here. Viewer discretion is advised. Some of these images may not be suitable for all audiences. 8:11 a.m. April 4th, 2022.
1915.
A Grand Rapids police officer pulls over a tan Nissan Altima near the intersection of Griggs and Nelson Southeast on the city's southeast side.
Hey, stay in the car! Stay in the car!
Patrick Lyoya, a 26-year-old refugee from the Congo, exits the vehicle, disregarding commands from 31-year-old Officer Christopher Schurr, a 7-year veteran of the force, to remain inside the car.
You have a driver's license. Do you speak English? No. Stop.
Almost immediately, a struggle begins. It lasts nearly 3 minutes and ends when Officer Schurr shoots Lyoya in the back of the head.
Drop taser!
Everyone.
The same day, the investigation is turned over to Michigan State Police, and city leaders gather to tell the public what has happened.
This is indeed a really difficult day for our city, and my prayers go out to everyone impacted by today's tragic incident.
A little more than a week later, on April 13th, dash cam, body cam, and cell phone video shot by the passenger in Lyoya's car is released to the public.
Stop grabbing him like that. No, he good like for real. Yo, you hit him too.
But for many, it is not enough.
Our streets!
Frustrated people take to the streets of Grand Rapids, demanding their voices be heard.
We are people, and we will remain that way!
Nearly 3 weeks after his death, April 22nd, Patrick Lyoya is laid to rest, with family, community members, and civil rights leaders attending.
In Grand Rapids, we have to play our part now.
Fast forward to April 27th.
Let him speak and stop disrupting this meeting.
Commission meetings are packed with community members demanding the officer's name be released and that he be charged. After weeks of public pressure, Chief Winstrom, just over a month into his new role as chief, publicly identifies Christopher Schurr as the officer involved in Patrick Lyoya's death.
Christopher Schurr is later charged with second-degree murder on June 9th and fired from the force 1 week later. In December, the Lyoya family files an excessive force lawsuit against the city of Grand Rapids and the police department.
Christopher Schurr remains free on bond and is expected to stand trial in October.
Now, before April 4th, most in the community had never heard of Patrick Lyoya, and many people don't know much about him now outside of the deadly shooting 1 year ago.
Patrick Lyoya was fairly new to Grand Rapids. He and his family came here from the Democratic Republic of Congo to West Michigan in 2015. Lyoya was a father of 2, a brother, and a son, but he was no stranger to law enforcement.
There were charges under his name, including stolen property, driving while unlicensed, and an active warrant for a domestic violence charge issued just 3 days before the shooting. However, those charges were not the cause of the traffic stop on April 4th. Lyoya also attended church, and according to Pastor Baza Mukale, was a constant presence in the pews of the Wesley Park United Methodist Church in Wyoming. Pastor Mukale says he was like a son to him, and his loss was felt by the entire congregation.
His life meant a lot for us, for our community, as a pastor. So he meant so much to our church.
His father, Peter Lyoya, says their pain was felt deeply when Patrick would have turned 27 years old. He says he still is unsure how to tell Patrick's children about the tragedy.
I don't know what to tell them. I don't know what to explain to them how their father was shot and killed by police. They're still too young to understand that, because they think that their father will come back one day.
The entire Lyoya family went to the cemetery this morning to pay their respects, place flowers where he was laid to rest, and pray together.
Christopher Schurr was an officer for the Grand Rapids Police Department since 2015. While with GRPD, he served the South Service area of the city. His personal record showed 2 complaints against Schurr, along with outstanding performance acknowledgments.
Schurr was a graduate of Byron Center High School. He married his wife in Kenya during a mission trip in 2014. 13 on Your Side made a number of attempts to contact Christopher Schurr's attorneys for comment, all of them unsuccessful. Exactly 25 days into his new position on April 4th, Grand Rapids Police Chief Eric Winstrom got a call regarding an officer-involved shooting on the city's southeast side. He had no idea that this call would change the course of his job and his department.
Chief Winstrom described the day of the shooting and the days and weeks following as one of the most depressing times of his life. He released the body cam and dash cam and cell phone video of the shooting. Officer Christopher Schurr was fired and charged with second-degree murder.
The days following the shooting, Chief Winstrom brought the family of Patrick Lyoya into his office, where he says they shared an emotional conversation about what comes next.
Every time I've made a notification to someone that their family member's killed in an automobile accident or the victim of gun violence, whatever it is, those are all difficult situations. But to have Patrick's dad and other loved ones in this office with me and crying with them and dealing with that, and know that it's so personal because it was one of our officers that shot and killed him, and that was tough to deal with. And yeah, I would describe it as extremely sad. It got sadder as time went on, and depressing, because you know the sadness that the Lyoya family's going through, you know the difficult times that Christopher Schurr and his family's going through, and then just knowing the harm that a city can suffer because of that. You know.
Despite the tension between the community and the department, Chief Winstrom says he was proud of the way his officers were able to keep the peace in the face of community outrage.
It really is difficult to do from a police officer standpoint, to manage an anti-police protest. It's difficult enough to manage a marathon, you know, just blocking traffic and things like that. And then it's harder to manage a protest where there's a lot of passion, like a protest around reproductive rights, or you know, I've been to some animal rights protests that got very intense. But when that protest turns into a literal protest against the police department, it creates a different dynamic that as a police department, when you're there to facilitate the rights of these individuals, their First Amendment rights, it is really difficult to do.
We made a number of attempts to contact former Officer Schurr's attorneys for comment. We did not receive a response. Since that day, Chief Winstrom says he has been taking steps to reform the department and build community trust. 13 on Your Side's Carla Byron talked to the chief about those changes.
The police department has implemented new tactics and training for its officers. However, the police chief says the most important thing is improving accountability and transparency.
I don't know that there ever was trust.
When Chief Eric Winstrom inherited the Grand Rapids Police Department on March 7, 2022, He says the department had more of an us against them feel.
The police department hasn't been good about communicating, hasn't been good about transparency, maybe hasn't been good with some of the actions that were taken before I got here.
Since the shooting death of Patrick Lyoya, along with other officer-involved shootings since, the chief says he wants to rebuild trust in the community by improving accountability and transparency.
My goal is to get the video out of every shooting as soon as possible. And that's just a trick of getting with the prosecutor, getting with the state police and saying, can I release this without impacting a criminal investigation? I want to get it out as soon as possible.
The chief says he wants his department to be known as the gold standard of policing. They brought in outside trainers for constitutional policing, de-escalation, and self-regulation, which includes breathing control exercises.
When you're trying to arrest someone and you do use punches to effect that arrest, it's not as effective as other things like control tactics, control holds. And so we're shifting as a department into, like I mentioned, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Winstrom acknowledges building trust can't be achieved overnight. It takes consistent, ethical behavior and showing the department is doing the right thing over time.
And I want to get to the point where when you talk to somebody on the street, they're proud of the Grand Rapids Police Department. They're proud to be talking about policing with a neighbor who lives in a different city and say, well, I'm proud of my police department. I live in Grand Rapids. You know, that's what I want to get to.
The chief adds he's optimistic for the future. Reporting in downtown Grand Rapids, Carla Byron, 13 on your side.
And following Lyoya's death, the community was quick to take action. For months, protesters made their voices heard in Grand Rapids.
From demonstrations in front of the Grand Rapids Police Department to heated outbursts and disruptions on the floor of city commission meetings. One Grand Rapids man made it his mission to be there.
D. Jones says change is needed and wants the community to listen and speak up. Jones says even with tensions high, he was focused on educating the crowds and striving for peace.
Sadly, it takes people to die and tragedies to happen for people to step up and governments to listen. I just wanted to really just be strong for the community and be one of the leaders that can truly guide us through one of the tragic times, one of the worst tragic times of the community.
Jones has since been part of several conversations with the city, including taking part in the conversations around the city's participatory budget. We asked him what he would most like to see from the police as the department and the community work toward healing together.
I would say really just going to communities, speaking to people in the hood, in the underserved communities, communities in poverty, and just speaking to them and letting them know that they're just as human and you guys have things that are in common. The only thing is that officer has a badge.
Jones says change comes from getting involved and staying involved, whether that's in local government or community organizations. He plans to continue to be a voice in the community and bring more opportunities for civic engagement to the people of Grand Rapids.
Since that day, 1 year ago, Grand Rapids city leaders say they've been listening and working to rebuild relationships many thought were beyond repair. City Manager Mark Washington echoed the words from activist D. Jones, saying his biggest goal has been reaching out to the communities most impacted by crimes like this.
And that change began with acknowledging that the problem is real and worth fixing.
So one of the things that we did as a result of the shooting is to double down on building our relationship with, number one, with the Black community. And the killing of Patrick Lyoya resulted in an awareness that there is diversity even within the Black community, because everybody's not African American. And so we recognize that there's a distinct difference of need in terms of the kind of communication and interaction that we have with our immigrant Congolese community, which quite frankly, prior to Patrick's killing, was not something that we commonly understood as a community at large.
One way the city is engaging is inviting the community to be part of the conversation around policing.
We've also been very intentional in terms of looking at police reform, which we were very committed to prior to Patrick Lyoya's killing, but also doubled down with since, that we wanted to have training that was based on the experience of community, that was community involved in terms of the design and the delivery.
We asked the city's Director of Oversight and Public Accountability, Brandon Davis, about the programs in place to help impacted communities. He says he's been making change through what he calls restorative justice.
We're looking at areas of restorative justice. We're saying what type of harms have been caused by the criminal justice system in Grand Rapids, but across the nation as well, and what can we do to impact or to reduce those harms. That includes our expungement program, which we are very proud of. That's work where we help individuals who have previously been involved in the criminal justice system, and we help them work towards obtaining a clean criminal record.
The city is hosting its next expungement fair through the Clean Slate program on May 13th.
As we look ahead to the fall, the trauma the city faced following Patrick Lyoya's death will resurface. Faith leaders from around Grand Rapids have some advice on healing and moving forward. 13 Underside's Nate Belt brings us that story tonight.
Pastor Jerry Bishop has seen it firsthand.
It has had a resounding impact on our entire community.
Decades of unresolved trauma in the Black community poured out after yet another traumatizing event. But this time, Bishop sees a difference, a younger generation ready for change.
Patrick may not be alive, but the community being galvanized for police reform is alive and well.
That change, Bishop says, begins with healing, and healing begins with a conversation.
Continuing a community conversation and having honest discussions facilitates much healing, much organization.
Last year, pastors from multiple Grand Rapids area churches echoed similar sentiments in the wake of Patrick Lyoya's death.
It's about being transparent. It's about understanding who we are as individuals. It's about understanding that if we learn how to forgive, then we can learn how to love.
People ought to know that there's a balance that we need to work towards, and that means everybody got to give up something and everybody got to let something go. And I think balance is important to resolve a community that is in a crisis at this time.
For Bishop, community conversations can be healing for all sides.
We can engage each other not being enemies, but being solution-driven. And I think that we need to come to the table and hear everybody's opportunity of solution.
And he hopes to see them continue, especially as Christopher Schurr's trial approaches.
We're going to have to keep putting logs on the fire of engagement so that the fire of hope doesn't dissipate.
Because in the end, Bishop believes it's the smallest talks that can make the greatest impacts.
Everything starts with a conversation, a coffee conversation, a front porch conversation, a congregational conversation, a park conversation. If we remain silent, our hearts will burst.
Christopher Schurr's trial was scheduled to begin in March. However, his attorneys asked for a delay for more time to prepare. It is now rescheduled for October 24th, and he is currently out on bond.
As for the Lyoya family, their civil lawsuit claims excessive force charges against the Grand Rapids Police Department and liability from the city for Lyoya's death. The family is seeking damages for attorney's fees, as well as awarding Patrick Lyoya's estate medical, hospital, funeral, and burial expenses. As for today, the family is focused on justice and continue to say his name.